Hi everyone, it is week 11. It's crazy to think that we're already here and this quarter just flew by. I'm not even really sure where it all went. But this is the final week, so we are talking about phlebotomy, which is really a nice segue into what you'll be doing with lab skills. Okay? So while this week is dealing with phlebotomy and chapter 26, I'm going to discuss it. But I'm not going to go too in-depth because a lot of what we will talk about in this chapter, we will be dealing with all 11 weeks of your lab skills class, which is coming up next quarter. So let's kind of start. Let's talk about what is phlebotomy. So phlebotomy is really the procedure for collecting blood samples. Okay? The individual who actually performs a phlebotomy is called a phlebotomist. Kind of self-explanatory. I think most of you probably dealt with a phlebotomist or two in your life. But it's really important to know that you as a medical assistant, once you become certified, could also do phlebotomy. That's how I started out, but then really wanted to just get my phlebotomy license, and I'm now a certified phlebotomist as well. In phlebotomy, you're going to perform what's called venipuncture. And venipuncture is really the invasive process and procedure of going into a vein and obtaining blood from it. And there are three types of venipuncture. First one is called an evacuated tube system. Second is called a butterfly. And third is a syringe method. I'm not going to go too in-depth with these because there will be specific weeks that we just talk about each procedure in your lab skills class. But what I do want to talk about and discuss is having the right equipment in order to perform venipuncture and phlebotomy. So the first thing that you're going to need to have in order to perform phlebotomy is going to be a tourniquet. And what a tourniquet is it's what we apply on the patient's arm to help constrict blood flow but keep venous blood flow. And when we constrict the blood flow, it actually helps enlarge the veins so we can draw from them. A tourniquet should be placed about 3 to 4 inches above on the arm, above where you're actually going to be performing the procedure. And you want to make sure that the tourniquet is tied tight enough so that way your venous blood flow stops or is constricted, but your arterial blood flow continues, because you don't want to lose arterial blood flow because then it actually ends up causing lots of major problems because you're cutting off your arteries. The most common types of tourniquets are really flat latex straps, and they're generally about 15 to 18 inches in length. The next important piece that you'll need for venipuncture is going to be a needle. And that needle comes in different sizes and different types depending on what venipuncture you are performing. We have what we call multi-sample needles, and we're going to use those during the evacuated tube system. You have hypodermic needles, which are used during syringe method, and then you have winged infusion needles, which are used during a butterfly method. Needles are generally individually wrapped in sterile packages and are disposable, so that means that they're one-time use only. You cannot reuse them, just like what you've seen when we do immunization injections. It's the same type of thing. They're individually wrapped and they're disposable. It's a one-time use only. Needles are available in a variety of sizes and lengths. The size is going to be determined and it's going to be called a gauge. And this really indicates the diameter of the lumen or the opening of your needle. And it's important to remember, the larger the number, the smaller the diameter of the needle. Needles are usually, the size that we use for venipuncture is a 21 gauge to 23 gauge. And the length is going to be how long the needle is, and that really depends on the depth of the vein that you're using. Most venipuncture procedures will use a 1 to 1.5 inch needle. However, when you're doing a butterfly injection or a butterfly draw, you actually are going to use, it's probably going to be about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch length needle. And one of the other pieces that you will need is a needle holder or an adapter. I'm going to call it a needle holder or a hub because that's what I've always called it, and that's what it's in my head as. So this is really a plastic cylinder piece with a small opening at one end where the needle screws in, and a larger opening at the other end where your vacuum tube can be placed on. This is available to actually hold the needle in place so it doesn't kind of move around on you, and is available in adult and pediatric sizes. What you'll see most frequently in our lab is going to be adult sizes. We don't have any pediatric, unfortunately, on site, but once you get to your externship sites, you can ask to see all that kind of stuff. And the last piece to perform venipuncture, you're going to need the evacuated tube. And these are called vacuum tubes. And the reason is that they have once they're processed and manufactured, they seal in air so it becomes a vacuum. And that vacuum will withdraw the blood from the patient without you having to do any of the work. It does it automatically, okay? The tubes are available in different sizes and volumes, and they generally are going to range from 2 milliliters to 15 milliliters. It's a crazy amount of blood, but I will be able to show you all the different sizes, shapes, and colors. And when I say colors, that's going to contain to the top of the tube, and that is going to deal with whatever anticoagulant or additive is present within that tube. Okay. Tubes are really available in glass and plastic, but just like everything else, we prefer them to be in plastic for safety reasons. All right, again, I don't want to go too in-depth into this because next quarter this is all you will be dealing with is venipuncture in labs and the different types of labs you'll run in an office. So I don't want to go too in-depth on you and lose you guys here. This week is the strange week because you're used to having everything due on Sunday. Unfortunately, with it being finals week, everything is due at Friday at 5 p.m. So your initial discussion post is still due on Tuesday, but your 2 responses need to be completed Friday by 5 p.m. Anything after that, I will not accept it unless you talk to me personally. But even then, it's got to be something, an emergency, okay? You will also have a written assignment this week that will be due on Friday by 5 p.m. And we're going to do a review for your final in class, but don't panic because these are all questions that you've seen before. They've been taken from the 3 exams that you've taken throughout the quarter. So it's not something that you don't know, but that still will be due Friday at 5 p.m. All right, guys, I look forward to seeing you all on Wednesday. Have a wonderful finals week, and I hope that you all are doing great and will finish the quarter strong.